Good morning, or depending when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I'm showing you another game that I recorded live at a local league challenge. This one comes from Athena Games in Norwich, a truly lovely venue. Those in the UK should check it out immediately, if not sooner. And it happened in October of 2015 in the standard format, which means we are using any cards from the X and Y set, all the way through to and including Ancient Origins. I should warn you before the video starts, I'm using a new microphone this time round, so as always in the comments below let me know if this microphone is better, if it's worse, or if you just don't care. Temporary mic, the regular mic will be back at some point in the future. I should also point out that I have a little bit of a sore throat, so if I sound a little bit croaky, please don't hold it against me. I love you all, and hopefully we're going to get through this together. Round 1 features a lovely chap and good friend of mine and perennial world's competitor Luke Kirkham. He's going to be playing Manectric bats, and he's going to be up against Chris Turner, more of a local Norwich player, and he is going to be playing a Rayquaza deck. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so we have Luke Kirkham on the left. He is the Manectric bats player I told you about, and we have Chris Turner on the right. He's the Rayquaza player. And this game's going to come down to a number of factors, including, does Chris play Altaria, and can he get the Altaria out? Altaria, of course, has the ability that turns off the weakness, meaning that Luke will be able to run through it very quickly with his Manectric. And we see a mulligan from both players here. It looks like Chris won the flip, but they haven't made it entirely clear. So if Chris plays the Altaria, then that's good. It's going to be big. It's going to stop Luke hitting for weakness. It's going to make his KOs more difficult. The other thing is that if Chris's Rayquaza deck goes off, it's probably going to win because Rayquaza has an inherent speed advantage over Manectric. Now, Manectric does need... Well, actually, no, there's a couple of things here, because firstly, the Rayquaza can evolve straight away with his Delta Evolution Ancient trait, and the Spirit Link means he doesn't have to end his turn, but of course the regular Manectric for 2 energy hits 120, which will double for a 1-hit KO if there's a tool like a Spirit Link attached to Chris's Manectric. But of course, Luke needs 2 energy attachments. Chris also needs 2 energy attachments, but Chris is likely to be playing Mega Turbo, and there is a decent chance that Luke isn't. Just that looks like a Shuppet there from Luke. It's got that Blair attack, which discards a special energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. The active Pokemon. It's good. I think that's a Shuppet. I can't quite see. Hopefully we'll get a better look in a moment. And it's quite good for stuff like Manectric. And it actually could come in play here. Remember, if Luke just goes Manectric after the Shuppet dies, then he can force Chris into a 7-prize game. And he can use a Shuppet to get rid of one of Chris's 4 precious DCEs. Remember, the Rayquaza needs a DCE and a regular energy to attach. And you'll see that Luke got a head ringer down right away onto Chris's Rayquaza, which is going to give him a huge advantage because now that Rayquaza takes 4 energy. It could still be done in a single turn, but Chris is going to need to hit a double colorless and 2 Mega Turbos. And let's not forget that now that the and Luke's just playing an Ultra Ball here. Presumably he's going to be going for a Zubat because he's already got a Manectric with an energy on, which is what he wanted. And most of these decks play Repeat Ball, so getting out 1 Zubat will then mean that Repeat Ball can get out more. Now, the head ringer on that Rayquaza does 2 things. First of all, it stops Chris getting the Spirit Link, which means he cannot evolve... Well, he can evolve that Rayquaza next turn, but not without ending his turn. He can't evolve and attack. The other thing that he's not going to be able to do, the other thing that Luke will be able to do is he's now guaranteed that that Rayquaza will have a tool on, which means he can hit for 120 damage straight away. And we see, I want to say, yes, that was a Faded Town, which puts 20 damage onto any Mega Pokemon between turns. But of course, I don't believe Luke is playing the Mega here. Be weird if he was playing it. Oh, and Chris has to dump 2 Mega Turbo on turn 1. Might have been worth playing the Birch there because he's now down to a maximum of 2 Mega Turbo and he's going to need them. against his Headringer deck. Now you do notice he's got a Regice there. Regice of course does 70 damage for free energy and blocks attacks from Pokemon EX, which means that Regice, when it gets going, will be immune to the attacks from the Manectric, which is going to be very, very useful potentially. Let's not forget that those bats can take down the Regice before it ever really gets going, as a Hooper comes down to search out more parts of that Rayquaza. And of course that Shuppet, I'm not 100% sure it is a Shuppet. I can't think what else it is at this stage, and I can't see through the glare. So I do apologise. Oh, actually, it might be a... No. Well, what Shuppet, let's just go with the Shuppet for the time being. Shuppet would be useful here, because Shuppet could use Blair to knock off a double colourless attached to Regice and make it very difficult for that Regice to ever be attacking. Oh, it's a Zubat. I'm being a complete and utter idiot. Shuppet is a well-known tech. It is a tech which is being used more and more lately, but of course it's a Zubat. If you look at the glare, there's that little white spot about 3/4 of the way up and 1/3 of the way in from the left, which clearly shows it to be a Zubat. Sorry for my silliness there, but I have seen people playing Shuppet in these decks. It does need a Psychic energy, but you can afford a couple of Psychic in a Manectric deck. So, let's get back to Chris and his setup. Now he's got the Regice. Luke will have to use his bats to take down that Regice. Chris has managed to get 2 unknown R's on the bench. Remember, he's got the ability to, he can just discard it and he can draw a card. So he's clearly going for a speed list here. He's got the unknown R's, he's got the Shamans, he's got a second Rayquaza down as he kills a second unknown. And really what he wants to be doing here, and he plays an Ultra Ball there, killing a Lysandra and a VS Seeker. I was just about to say he can use VS Seeker to reuse it in future. And out it comes. So that's going to be a little bit awkward. But, of course, he gets the Swablu out, and he needs a Swablu. And straight away he uses that Delta Evolution Ancient trait to evolve it straight away. Really nice play from Chris there, getting the Swablu down and immediately evolving it into the Altaria, so that it can't be KO'd. And another really nice play there. He doesn't use a Spirit Link, whether he had one or not I couldn't see, but he doesn't use a Spirit Link to evolve the Rayquaza. That means that the Manectric is only going to be hitting for a maximum of 120 with the weakness, and if Chris can start stringing together some one-hit KOs with that Rayquaza, he is going to be laughing. Now he's already used 1 DCE on the Regice. I didn't see if he discarded one earlier on, I'm afraid. And we know he's killed at least 2 Mega Turbo. So the one problem, of course, he's got here, and we see the Golbat coming down, putting 2 damage counters on the Regice. And as we said, oh, and a Faded Town comes down. That's going to put 2 damage counters on that Rayquaza between turns, not just once a turn, but between turns. And it's going to keep doing so unless Chris can get a Sky Arrow Bridge, not a Sky Arrow Bridge, a Skyfield down, as he uses an AZ to pick up the Shaman and drop it down to draw a few more cards. We see a Muscle Band coming down on the Manectric, which does now have 2 energy on it, and were it not for the Altaria, we'd be seeing a one-hit KO. He's doing, and the Shaman, he gets another Shaman there. Oh, and we see another. That's huge there. Now he's still going to be hitting for 140, which is not to be laughed at, but it's 140, not 280. It's got the 60 base plus the 60 for the tool plus the 20 for the muscle band, will put it up to 140. Now, of course, Chris did the really good play by not attaching the Spirit Link to the Rayquaza, but that doesn't really matter because we saw that Luke was able to get the Headringer on. And for these Manectric decks that do go regular Manectric rather than Mega Manectric, Headringer is a phenomenally good play because it means that you're always hitting for the 120. Worse, and Luke there points out the Faded Town that Chris hadn't taken the damage. Worst case scenario, your opponent doesn't put down a tool, so you put down the Headringer, which not only means, and we see another VS Seeker come, and that's 3 VS Seeker and 2 double colourless energy already been used. And this is dodgy there. He's used at least 2 Mega Turbo, 3 VS Seeker, 2 double colourless. He does get the Skyfill, but Chris is using an awful lot of resources here. I think at this stage it's fair to question if he's even going to be able to get a non-EX up. A Rayquaza EX, a Mega Rayquaza going. Chris's route to victory here is twofold. He can either go for the Regice and just try and block the Manectric, but then even if Luke attacks with a Crobat, he's doing 30 damage, and Regice is 2-hit KOing, plus Luke's getting all the damage from the bats. So I don't think Regice is going to be enough. One route to victory here for Chris would be, I'm just going to set up these Rayquazas and I'm just going to smash. And it's not an ideal situation, but you just set it up and smash. But it doesn't look like this is going to be a viable play at this stage. And he's gone and put a tool on the Shaman, and I know he's put a tool on the Shaman to try and draw more cards, but Manectric, with the Altaria out not hitting for weakness, Manectric was doing 80 and not getting a KO. Now there's a tool on that Shaman. That Manectric is 1-hit KOing the Shaman. So that's not a good play from Chris there. I don't think that 1 extra card was worth it. With a Lysandre, Luke is getting a 1-hit KO on that Shaman, whereas before, he'd have to get a Crobat drop for 30 and a Manectric hit with the Muscle Band. And now he goes and puts a double colourless energy on the Rayquaza energy anyway, after killing a double colourless energy, which means he's now used 3 double colourless energy, and he's used 2 Mega Turbo, and he's used 2 of the water energy. There's 1 in the discard and 1 on the Regice at least, and he's got that Rayquaza in the active, so he's going to be giving up that Rayquaza. That Rayquaza is dead. It's going to go down. Luke is going to go 2 prizes up. And not terrible discards from Chris here. Luke's going to go 2 prizes up, and Chris is going to have to be smashing. He's going to have to be smashing Manectrics. Now, what he could do here, and what I think his best plan would be to just go fully aggro. Try and get a Mega Rayquaza out. Try and kill that Manectric. And then while Luke is struggling, because remember, when the Manectric goes down with 1 energy, Luke's doing 40 damage with a Muscle Band. And that's not taking down a 210 HP Mega EX too quickly. So what he would be able to do is go aggro Rayquaza and then try and Lysandre the Shamans. The problem is here, he's having to give up 2 prizes. He's already used a whole bunch of double colourless energy. And he gets the KO mid-turn, which is huge. Because now Chris is going to have to promote something, and it doesn't look like Chris is playing a whole bunch of switching cards, which means he's going to have to promote something. And what does he promote? He needs the Altaria to stop the weakness. He doesn't want to give up a Shaman KO. He doesn't want to let him have a hit on the Rayquaza before he starts attacking, because that ruins his aggro plan. And he doesn't want to give up the Regice. So Chris is in a huge amount of trouble here, and even though we're quite early, it's becoming hard to see how Chris can win this game, because Luke is absolutely in control. Chris can't even try picking off EXs very easily, because we've already seen at least 1 Lysandre and 3 VS Seeker hit the discard pile. Assuming he's playing an ordinary list, that leaves 1 Lysandre and 1 VS Seeker. Now, he does get rid of the Hooper, which is useful, and he gets rid of that Shaman with the tool on, so he has avoided that quite nicely. He hasn't had anything bad happening from that, which is awesome. He's gotten away with that one quite nicely. But of course, that Faded Town is going to be doing 20 damage to this Rayquaza after Luke's turn, and unless Chris gets down a Skyfield next turn, it's going to keep doing 20 after everybody's turn. You do see Luke there playing Flash Energy, which is the energy which gets rid of weakness, useful against stuff like Lucario or even Mineshaw, not particularly useful against a Rayquaza deck. So Luke here, he's going to get another 140, added to the 20 is 160, plus the 20 from Faded Town is 180, which means that he's now on 30 damage left. Now, there's no Crobat down, but there are 2 Zubats down, so potentially Luke could drop 2 Crobats next turn and get the KO in the middle of the turn. And I don't think he can win next turn because the Altaria is going to stop him one-hit KOing a Shaman for the time being. However, if Luke has got with 2 Crobats, a Lysandra and a Headringer, Luke can win this turn. He could drop 2 Crobats to KO the benched Rayquaza, and he could then use a Lysandra to pull up one of the Shaman, drop the Headringer, and then with the Headringer he would get the KO, even ignoring the weakness, because he'd be doing 140. Now, we've already seen 2 Headringers. I don't know if he plays anymore. Some people do, some people don't. You do see there, he's just playing a switch. He's sticking up the Crobat. The Crobat's got a Muscle Band on. He's doing 50 damage. Or indeed 30 to the bench. So what he could do here is snipe the Rayquaza on the bench and get the KO. As we're in game 1, I would like to see the bench KO here, purely because we don't know. It's early on in the game, and we've seen most of Chris's deck, but we don't know if he's going to be playing an AZ. Oh no, sorry, he's got 220 HP, has a Rayquaza, so it's completely irrelevant. I do apologise. Rayquaza's got 200. Oh, but there's the Faded Town. So the Faded Town comes in and gets the KO anyway. I'd forgotten about the Faded Town. So he didn't need the bench KO on the Rayquaza. He used the Faded Town. I am apparently taking my time to get back into this. So slight misstep from me there, but we caught on very, very quickly. So save the "you suck" YouTube comments. We are going to be okay. I spotted it nice and quickly. Now, a good play from Chris here. He's pulling up that Manectric again. The problem is he's not getting a KO. He's leaving it on 140, and that's not going to get the KO. Now, we saw that Luke used a switch last turn, but he doesn't need to use a switch. Manectric's got a retreat cost of 1. Luke can just manually retreat and then kill the Regice with the Crobat. Regice has 120 HP, 110, 120 or less, shall we say. And that means that he is very easily killed by the assuming no Crobats go down, he can just be killed by the and it is 120 HP, I was correct. Oh, we see an enhanced hammer getting rid of that DCE. That is absolutely brutal from Luke there. This means he can bring up the Crobat, he can get the KO on the Regice, he can go down to 1 prize, and he's gonna need, oh, and we just see him. We see a concession from Chris there. There was very little he could do. Luke is an exceptional player. He's at Worlds every year. He's picked a good deck. He's an awesome player. It should be no surprise to see him romp home with a deck like that. Chris, good guy, local guy, good player. He had a good deck. But you saw in that game, there was nothing Chris could do. The start that Luke had, the way he played, Chris did dump a lot of useful resources very early, but then he needed to get set up. Rayquaza relies on speed, so he might not have had a choice. That might have been his only way to win. Thank you very much for watching if you've got this far, and I very much hope you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. This was round 1 from the Norwich League Challenge. I'll be back with rounds 2, 3, 4 and 5. And I've got 4 rounds from a Sheffield League Challenge the day after. There's 8 rounds to go, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with me. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.